Russia. Russia was a country with great difficulty. Russia would be slow to mobilize in any of its war plans, even though it had its reserves. It had a large army and a lot of reserves. Its regular army would be the force that had to bear the brunt of battle early on. And why? It's mostly because Russia is so much space, and in this case space means time, that its reservists come from all over Russia and would have to concentrate in areas of embarkation, right, before they could be mobilized. They'd have to be organized into force and then mobilized. So until that could happen, it was the Russian regular army that would have to do the fighting. Space is the key problem for Russian mobilization. The same thing that gives Germany problems with the idea of attacking Russia, the same problem for Russians mobilizing. Its distance from Germany, as well as its need to concentrate its forces, means that it has to not only concentrate its forces, then it has that long distance to cover. So until that time, its regular army would have to hold out in any conflict. So it would take a while for Russia to guarantee any presence in the fighting war, if it ever came to a fighting war. Additionally, the Russo-Japanese War, fought in 1903 to 1905, certainly hurt Russia. In 1905, there was a rebellion in Russia, which also hurt Russia. So Russia needed to organize its army. What it did after 1905 was start funding more military spending, building up its equipment, its supplies, its material, its technology, but still it was not enough. And a number of its soldiers, when it went to war in 1914, didn't even have a rifle. It did develop a set of war plans called the mobilization schedules. The first mobilization schedule, Mobilization Schedule 18, promised the French an offensive after getting its reserves concentrated and then stopping, because the other Russian problem is that it's got a frontier against these two allies that are Russian enemies in this case, Germany and Austria-Hungary. The problem is, who's the biggest threat? Because Russia's going to have to make a choice. Is it Germany or is it Austria-Hungary? And so the idea was that it would get its reservists up, it would have its army concentrated and ready to go, and then decide, okay, who's the big threat, Germany or Austria? And then concentrate the bulk of its force on whoever it felt was the greatest threat. Okay, that meant that in the French war planning, that you're looking at originally no force being brought to bear until 55 days after mobilization. M plus 55. It's too much. It's too long. And the French wanted something sooner. They got some more help from Mobilization Schedule 19. It assumed that Germany would be the key threat. It abandoned Russian Poland, basically, this area here that I'm circling and scribbling in here. It abandoned that area, which annoyed a number of Russian commanders who'd been on this frontier guarding against Austria-Hungary, saying, what have they been doing all of this time? But basically decided Germany was going to be the real threat. It abandoned Russian Poland, and Russia's also had to worry about its commitment to southeastern Europe as well as France. Okay, so, but then they reassessed the situation and developed Schedule A and Schedule G. Schedule A and then Schedule G. What were these schedules? Basically, Schedule A said that the real threat was going to be Austria, and Schedule B, or variant G, said that the real threat was going to be Germany. But what Russia did finally guarantee France was a promise to attack Germany on M plus 15. which meant that 15 days after mobilization, on the 15th day, Russia would attack Germany here. And it would have 800,000 troops to go after them. So while Russia could be frustrating, Russia's big plan is, who's my big enemy? Where do I do it? Additionally, Russia has to help because Russia has its commitments to its Slavic neighbors, especially Serbia. So how does it help? If Austria-Hungary is, say, pressuring Serbia, Russia has to put pressure on Austria-Hungary to bring troops off that front so that they have to reckon and fight with the Russians. So the Russians also have their own problems and not always the most effective at planning here.